So this is Baruch Fleischman. We're at the place called Jewish Astrology, a cosmic science. And this is a section, which is really a book of its own, small one, Basic Model of the Universe. So now we're going to start really getting into some real work. Before, in the beginning part, you could see that we were talking about trying to prove that there's something going on here that's worth our knowing. So whether or not astrology is really part of the Jewish people, of course it is. So now we're coming over to places where we're actually mixing astrology and Kabbalah, and this person is really going to lay out something beautiful for us. So the first thing that we want to see is, counting from the top to the bottom, is a formation of worlds. Formation of worlds. And he said that the world is, let's just say, for example, if we're looking at it from the outside in, which is the drawing that we're going to be talking about in a second, there are more than one way of looking at this. In Kabbalistic space, there really is no upside down, inside out. There's nothing right, left. But the Re has allowed us to use these concepts in order to orient ourselves, because in the world that we live in, these things are very definitely there. So if we went to the top, which would be the outermost sphere, would be the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. And then after that, we come to the level of what is called Adam Kadmon, primordial man, or the first man. Which means the formation of light into a form that eventually manifests and congeals itself into something that's actually physical. And this is what we understand is the basic concept of the beginning of reality. Then that's called the world of emanation. He says Adam Kadmon comes a world of emanation, which is called Atzilus. Now the way this is printed is a little bit difficult, but that's the way it is. The order is Ein Sof, Adam Kadmon, then comes Atzilus, then comes the Bria, and then comes Yetzirah, and then comes the world of action, which is where we live. And over there he had made this statement that there were 7 heavens. Oh, we've heard that phrase before, and here are the 7 heavens: Avilon, Rekia, Shchakim, Zvul, Machon, Ma'unen, Arabot. Okay, now I'm not an expert at this, okay? When I met Reb Yaakov Kronenberg, I was a student of Kabbalah, as you see, that I am. And so he is a master in not just does he know Kabbalah, and you're going to see some things that he knows that are going to be really outstanding, but he's also an astrologer. So let me show you the next drawing. Let's go to this one, and it'll give you an idea of where I'm coming from, and then we're going to pick up down here at the bottom of this page. Can I get it on this? There we go. But let me lift this up higher so we can see the whole thing. It's like this. It's the best I can do. And this way of looking at the universe is looking at a series of rings. They are also cycles. They're moving. In astrology, they're moving like this. Our clocks move like that. So there is actually both forms. One has to do with the spiritual world, which is the clockwise. But the astrological world, which deals with our olam of Asiya down here on the earth, is working counterclockwise. He'll talk about that. So he says, look at how it goes. Let's just take the names of the spheros. The first sphere of the outer band, which is closer to the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, is called Keter, then Chochmah, Bina, Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod. And in the center of all, pointing at all of this energy, which is coming in this direction, is the earth. Now, not to get anybody too mixed up, because I didn't make a drawing myself, but you could actually have the opposite drawing. The opposite drawing works also. What would that drawing be? That would be Keser in the middle, or the Ein Sof Baruch Hu in the very middle and raining outwards. So this is a fundamental difference between the Kabbalah of astrology and the Kabbalah of the Ari, because the Ari only deals with the opposite of this. He deals only with the main energy is on the inside and everything is wrapped around. But we're going to be organizing ourselves this way. Now let's come over here to the bottom, and I could get the page down a little bit better at this point and read a little bit of what Reb Yaakov Kronenberg has written here. He says, actually, there is a debate in astrology and astronomy about the zodiac. There is a tropical zodiac and a sidereal zodiac. Some people say the world is run by the sidereal zodiac and claim the fixed stars are seen as such because they move slowly every 71 years to a degree. I should have looked up the word sidereal, but I didn't. So it's to 1 degree every 70 years. Unlike the planets, which move much faster. Then he says Indian astrology uses the sidereal zodiac, based on the movement of the stars. Western astrology goes with the tropical system, and we will talk about this distinction in later writing. So now he's introduced 2 ideas. I understood what he said about the sidereal. I'm not sure what the sidereal means. I probably should have looked it up, but I didn't. Now he says the Gagol HaSeichel. Now where were we in the Gagol HaSeichel in this drawing? So he says this is the wheel of higher insight. Gagol HaSeichel. Seichel is, I guess, insight, intelligence. So he says is also called crown or Keser, and is the intermediary point between the second palace, which is the Rakia, and the other palaces above it. In other words, crown is an interface, namely the third palace. So as you go up, you see that things are more and more spiritual and less material. This is symbolized by the fact that most of the distant stars can't be seen with the naked eye. Maybe one day we will again be able to see the more abstract spiritual worlds. God told Abraham that his children would be as numerous as the stars in the sky. And that time people had no telescopes and didn't see stars other than what they saw with their naked eyes, about 1,000. So you realize that they realized already then that there was much more than they could see. This is an important idea, that they had important knowledge of galaxies and stars beyond what people could see. So he means to say that the ancients had an ability to see beyond the physical. The 7th palace in the world of Asiya, and let's get back to that drawing again, try to stay with it here. Where are my palaces? He says the seventh, 1 to 7 is called Arabos, but let's see how he said that. He says, where was? The 7th palace is called Aravot, which is the highest palace in the heaven of the world of action, which is symbolically referred to as the clouds. This 7th heaven of the world of action is the palace of Aravot. It corresponds to 3 upper spheros of the 10, namely Keser, Chochmah, and Bina. Now, let's understand we're counting from the top to the bottom, and very often in Kabbalah that you will see that these 3 spheros, which are also, you see them over here. Let me see, I got to get myself together. Wrong one more. He says that these are the top 3 spheros, the outer rings. Let me get it back up here a little bit better. The outer rings. The Keser, Chochmah, and Bina. So we have to look like this. I have really, by myself, no real understanding of what the higher insight is. But he says that's what Keser is. Keser is a bridge between universes. So Chochmah, that's the daily wheel. Once again, I really don't know what that is. Now Bina, he says, are the fixed stars. So I can understand that. I got to a place where I can understand something that I can see with my eyes. Then he says Chesed is Saturn, which is very interesting, which is the furthest away planet. The Gevurah comes from Jupiter. Tiferes comes from the sun. Tiferes is Zeranpin, is the sun. Netzach is Mars. Hod is Venus. And Yesod is Mercury. Now, Malchut, of course, is the moon. Now, I'm sure there's a great deal could be said about this, to be understood as we're getting closer to Pesach, and after Pesach we come to the time of Sphira. And Sphira, we're going to start going through these things. But the first 3, fixed stars, the daily wheel, and Keter, they're not part of the paradigm that we get in Sphira. So I don't know too much about it. Let's see if we can find out some more. So let's go on, and my goodness gracious, the time went real fast. Let's read from this place right here, and then we're going to have to call it to an end. The 7th palace in the world of Assyria is called Aravot, which is the highest palace in the heaven of the world of action. So in other words, you're moving up. You're from the 7th palace, the highest palace of the lowest world, will correspond to the lowest level of the world above it, which is symbolically referred to as the clouds. This seventh palace of Aravot corresponds to the three upper spheres of, namely, Keser, Chochmah, and Bina, which we call the Rosh, or the head. In the general scheme of Sefiros in the Tree of Life, all three of these are like one, not like arms or legs which work separately, but like a head. The sixth palace corresponds to the seventh sphere of Chesed, and the fifth palace the Gevurah, and so on with Tiferes, Netzach, and Hod, and then you have the palace of the Rekiah, which is like the sphere of Yesod, and then finally it's going to go to Malchus, and we'll pick that up the next time. This is Baruch Fleischman at Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and it's a really pleasure to be learning this Sefer by Yaakov Kronenberg.